Kamala Harris sat down for an interview with CNN, and what she does here is lays the groundwork for a narrative post a Democratic loss in the 2020 general election. So this is really interesting. Look at how she handles the question on Russia.
The Department of Homeland Security bulletin said that Russia is trying to amplify claims that mail-in voting will lead to widespread voting fraud and undermine the public's trust in the upcoming election. Are you worried that Russian interference could cost you the election?
I am clear that Russia interfered in the election of President of the United States in 2016. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. We have published detailed reports about exactly what we believe happened. And I do believe that there will be foreign interference in the 2020 election and that Russia will be at the front of the line.
Could it cost you the White House?
Theoretically, of course. Yes.
What this clip tells me is it's the same playbook as 2016. If the Democrats lose, nothing's going to change. So we have to be honest about that, guys, because there is a theory that's gaining steam on the left that, oh, well, if Trump wins, it would actually be better for the left because then the Democrats can't deny it that neoliberal corporatism is a failure. And so a Democratic loss, a Biden loss, would embolden the left, and the party would be forced to turn more left because they would know, well, that's clearly the way to win. That Bernie would have won in 2016, Bernie would have won in 2020. So this is what's called, and then there's another aspect to this argument of like, oh, things will get so bad that there will be a backlash, and it's called accelerationist theory. Things need to get really, really bad before they get better, because when things get really, really bad, that's when people get emboldened and organized and fight back against it in a way that can work and succeed. I never really bought into backlash theory or accelerationism, as it's called, because I think all the evidence goes in the opposite direction. It's not like when George W. Bush was president, especially in his second term, where we had multiple wars, we had a subprime mortgage crisis and a great recession. I mean, the country was in shambles. Did the Democrats respond to that by acknowledging that going further left is a better option? No. In typical Democratic fashion, they moved further right and met Bush and Cheney in the middle, which turned out being just right-wing positions. So every time the Republicans go far right, the Democrats just follow them and keep meeting them halfway, until the Democratic Party is just a right-wing party. So the whole like backlash theory or accelerationist theory, it's not true. And if Kamala and Biden lose, here's what's going to happen. The exact same thing that happened in 2016. So they'll come out the day after and they probably can't blame James Comey this time, but they'll blame sexism and racism and the left, and most importantly, they'll blame Russia. So in other words, they're laying the groundwork to take no responsibility if they lose. If they lose, it will be exactly like 2016. We'll wake up and it'll be Groundhog's Day. That's what it'll be. And it's so easy. See, again, I've made this point previously, but I really think people need to grasp it and digest it. The debate will never be settled. It's exactly like when there's an economic crash and then we do some stimulus spending in order to try to fire up the economy. The left-wing argument is always, hey, I know we did the stimulus spending and I know the economy bounced back a little bit, but the problem was we needed more stimulus spending because then we'd be doing better. And the right-wing counter-argument to that is always, no. You messed up by even doing the original stimulus spending. We needed to do no stimulus spending, let the economy ground out and bounce back naturally. So you can always restate your premise and act like your conclusion has been proven. You know, there are conservatives to this day that argue, oh, FDR exacerbated the Great Depression by doing the New Deal. And doing all that effectively stimulus spending. That if he didn't do that, we would have bounced back faster. This is anarcho-capitalists talk about this all the time. This is a libertarian talking point. And of course, the left-wing answer is like, no, that helped us get out of the Depression much faster, the New Deal and then World War II and all the spending associated with that. So it's the same thing for elections, guys. If Kamala and Joe lose, what they will say is, we freaking courted the left too much. We shouldn't have done that unity commission thing with Bernie Sanders where we came up with all these policy ideas that we're going to pursue. We should have ran further to the right. We should have ran further centrist, more corporatist. Maybe if Trump wins again, they'll probably think like we needed to be more anti-immigrant. You know, we needed to not lean into certain issues. So their takeaway will be, because this is what they do, they're corporate Democrats, they're neoliberals. They don't have it in them to ever say, well, left was the right answer. No, they'll say, we weren't right-wing enough. That's what they'll say. I know everybody on the left thinks that's crazy, and you hear that and you're like, no, I mean, it would be obvious that left is the way to go. They're not left. They're not embracing Medicare for all. They're not embracing free college. You know, they're not for the policies that we're for. Correct. But what they'll say is the few areas where we did try to align more with the left, that's what we got hammered on the hardest, and that's where we messed up. So they'll never learn their lesson, guys, ever. Ever. They'll never learn their lesson. To them, everything is further proof of their original theory of triangulation, as it's called, of being a 1990-style new Democrat. Hey, we're above the fray. We're not like these crazy lefties. We're not like these right-wingers. We have a third way. Third way politics. So I just want you to understand there is no, and this is the thing where people, and I get why people want to do this, but people want to feel like there is something that is a solution. They want to feel like, okay, well, if Trump wins, then the left will organize better and the Democrats will learn and they'll have to do a better coalition with the left. It's just not, that's just not the case, man. So the left loses if Trump wins, because the Democrats will just go further right, and the left loses if Biden wins, because Biden will govern as a neoliberal corporatist. So the only way for the left to get from point A to point B is the hard work. The hard work, which means relentless, endless, dedicated, consistent prodding, organizing, laser focused on the issues that have the most push and that are most necessary. So yes, that would mean like all in on Medicare for all. You know, it would mean in today's day and age, I would argue all in on like universal basic income, because we need this in the middle of the pandemic for sure. Ending the wars could be another one. Like the only way we get any of this accomplished is whether it's a Republican administration or a Democratic administration, you effectively treat them the same. And you strategize, you organize, and you're relentless and consistent in getting bodies out there in the street and doing direct action. I mean, a general strike is the real way to actually get them to pay attention. Because the elites, one thing they can't abide is the economy grinding to a halt. And then they're forced to respond. They're forced to make concessions. But this is stuff that, again, it needs to happen whether it's Republicans in power or Democrats in power. You can't have a different approach depending on the administrations. You have to treat them both as the enemy, because that's effectively what they are. But here you go. They're laying the groundwork. If they lose, they will blame Russia and they will blame the left. That's what they'll do. So there is no them learning their lesson. You have to force them to do the right thing. It's as simple as that.